Welcome. We're going to take a look here at the research process and how to document your sources. Our overall goals for today include what is documentation, how does a writer document sources, and what is MLA. Let's start off with what is MLA. MLA stands for Modern Language Association. This is a particular book that lays out all of the steps that you need to know in terms of creating your research paper or project. It's written by Joseph Gibaldi. There's a picture of it over on the far left or on the far right. That's the most recent version, which is the 7th edition. It's not very expensive, so I would definitely recommend picking that one up. In the middle there is a green version by Houghton Mifflin, and that one can be really helpful to give you a guide with MLA if you choose that one too. Evaluating sources. So one of the first things that MLA recommends is that you know how to evaluate sources. What that means is that you need to be able to look at a source and determine whether or not it is a useful source. It needs to have authority, accuracy, and currency. So it needs to be from an expert, a person who's a particular expert on that exact topic. It needs to contain accurate information, and it needs to be current, meaning that it's up to date. Now, sometimes students think that they only have a couple of options in terms of sources. Some students think that they only have websites to use, and other students think that they only have books to use. Actually, there are a couple dozen different options in terms of sources. Here's a list of different things that you might end up using depending upon your project or your paper. It really just depends upon what your topic is that you are researching and what kind of a project that you're creating overall. But any of these sources may be valid depending upon your paper. Now, let's say that you've collected a couple of different sources and you've collected some information on those. One mistake that students make is they accidentally take those books or those journals right back to the library and drop them off. They forget to write down all of the information about the book or the journal so that they can keep track of it. Here's the information that you would need to keep. On a book, you'd need your author's name, the title, edition, and so forth. On a journal, which would be similar to a magazine, you would need, again, author's full name, title of the article, title of the journal, volume number, and so forth. You need to collect all of that information on each of your sources. It's very important because you'll use it later on. Newspapers and magazines are one of the top things that students use when they're collecting information. Here you're looking for author's name, title of the article, title of the periodical, date of publication, and page numbers. All of those, again, very important. Be sure to write these things down as you're taking notes. Internet sources. Sometimes students think that internet sources are the best sources to go find. Actually, they're the sources that are the biggest hassle when it comes down to it. Sure, it's easy to surf the net and locate things quickly, but it's very difficult to evaluate an internet source in the first place. And secondly, there's so much information that you really need to collect on it for your works cited page that is also a challenge. Here's the information that you would need from an internet source. Author's name, title of the document, full information about an earlier or simultaneous publication, and so forth. That's quite a bit of information that you would need to collect on each of your internet sources. Let's take a look at citations. There are two different kinds of citations. One, you'll have the in-text or parenthetical citation, and we'll cover works cited in a little bit. So an in-text or parenthetical citation, this is where you cite your sources in your body paragraphs. We have an example here. Historians and archaeologists were not able to locate all of the information about the ancient Egyptians' use of medicinal herbs and other healing practices until the early 20th century. Markowitz 293. Right here, this is the in-text citation. Okay, we've got our parentheses, we have the last name of our writer, and we have the page number. The period always follows the citation. Notice that there's nothing else. There's not the word page. There's not a year. There's not the title of a book. There's nothing else in there. It's only writer's last name and the page number. That's all that you have to do for Modern Language Association, for MLA format. It's pretty easy. Now, anytime that you use the in-text citation, which is what this is, you will also include a citation entry into your works cited page. So here we have Markowitz, which is the person's last name, comma, Ira, which is the first name, period. Then we have the name of the book, Medical Practices of the Ancient Egyptians, underlined with a period. New York is the city of publication, followed by a colon. Martin Publishers published the book, followed by a comma, and then our year with a period. It's very important to make sure that your in-text citations and your works cited page match. Let's take a look at another example here. Now, in this example, we notice that Ira Markowitz, the name is mentioned in the sentence. Ira Markowitz, famous archaeologist, explains that until recently little was known about the medical practices of the ancient Egyptians. 293. Now, since the person's name is used in the sentence, we don't actually have to list it again here in the in-text citation. Instead, we can just put the page number. That's just fine. In the works cited page, our entry looks exactly the same as it would if we use the other style of in-text citation. Let's take a look here at the works cited page. This is the other place where we put all of our information that we have collected. All of our sources go here. So your works cited page, it's very much like a bibliography. It's just a different term for it. Okay? Here's an example of what it looks like. You always have to have a works cited page for every research paper and every research project. Otherwise, you fall into that scary area of plagiarism, and we definitely don't do that. And what does the works cited page do? It lists for your reader every source that you used in your project, and it lists them in the same format, which makes things very easy for your reader as they're going to look information up. Here are some guidelines when you're working through your works cited page. All of your entries need to be organized alphabetically by the author's last name. All of the entries have to be in MLA format, very important. All of the entries are double spaced. Make sure that you're only using double spacing. Sometimes I find students will use double spacing in some places, single spacing in other places, and quadruple spacing in other places. It just makes a mess. Only use double spacing. The page should be titled Works Cited. The title will be centered with each word capitalized in 12-size font, Times New Roman, just like the rest of your paper. Do not underline, embolden, or italicize the title in any way. Each new entry begins at the far left of the new line. It is not indented. Any additional information that flows over from the first line in the entry is indented. So the indentation is a little bit backwards. Here's an example of a book entry. All of our information is in the top part here under book format. Author's last name, comma, first name, period, and so forth. That's all of the information that you would include for your works cited book entry. And we have an example here. Melvin is the last name, comma, Janice is the first name, period. Cooking San Francisco Style is the name of the book. It's underlined and followed by a period. San Francisco is the city of publication, and Culinary Delight Publishers is the name of the publisher. There's a comma, and then the year, 2002. An entry always ends with a period. Here's a journal entry. We have all of the information in the top piece here. Article from a scholarly journal entry, we can see it starts with the author's last name, comma, author's first name, and so forth. Here's an example. Kim Turner. Turner is the last name, comma, Kim is the first name. My Life in the Bookshelves. That's the name of the article. Novel Addicts of America. That's the name of the journal title. The volume is 115, year is 2010, followed by a colon, and then the page numbers. This is a longer article that goes from page 92 to 103. Always ends with a period. And here's a magazine format. Again, another popular type of source with students. Our example is down here on the bottom. Notice that it looks pretty similar to our scholarly journal example. Gomez, Sandra, period. Mexican myths in quotations with the period inside of the quotations. History of Mexico is underlined period, that's the name of the magazine. The date here, 12th of June of 2012, is followed by a colon, and after that are the inclusive pages. Inclusive pages means that the article started on page 117 and ended on 119. Always ends in a period. Here's an example of what a works cited page looks like. You'll see at the top the title is Works Cited. It's not emboldened, italicized, or anything else. Each of our entries are listed out in alphabetical order. The second lines to the entries are indented, the first lines are not. We have used only double spacing, no single spacing, no triple spacing, no quadruple spacing, nothing else, only double. Notice too that each of the entries are in MLA format. Plagiarism, always an issue that comes up unfortunately with research papers. If you don't cite your sources, then technically your paper is plagiarized. What is plagiarism? Well, it's illegal, academically dishonest, and will cause you more headaches than the time it seems to save. Plagiarizing is stealing, so don't do it. Plagiarizing is borrowing information without giving proper citation. It's not a practice you want to take up. Alright, so what are students expected to do? Students are expected to do the following. Each body paragraph must contain source citations in MLA format. The works cited page will be the last page of your paper, and that will be in MLA format. You cite every source and cite every usage. Never guess or make it up on the format. Look up exactly how to cite your sources or ask for help. At this point, what you should know and be able to do is understand what MLA is, know how to document your sources, and be able to create a works cited page. I hope this information has been helpful to you. Good luck with your writing.